Hey there, welcome back. Today we're going to be working in a spot in my yard that has been kind of developing into a potential garden since last summer. I had a large load, about 14 yards of compost dumped in my yard, and in anticipation of knowing that the pile would probably kill off this spot, I thought perhaps this would be a nice spot for a garden eventually. So before they dumped the pile, I weed whacked the grass down really low, had them dump the pile, and then I was pulling off of the pile of compost to top dress gardens last year, this year, and as it's made its way down lower, I've been also kind of flattening it out into this garden bed. So now it's been sitting all summer long, just kind of getting ready, killing off the grass, incorporating itself into the soil underneath it. I've edged the bed, I've weeded it, and now I am ready to plant some beautiful plants into it. All right, so here is the spot that we're going to be working with. This garden, I'd say, is probably, it's kind of a little bit oval-ish, so it's probably about 20 by 15. And as you can see, we're in the lower gardens. These are all beds that I have started in this same manner of basically weed whacking down the grass and laying down cardboard. Although this bed only has cardboard in probably this like lower section right here. This area in the middle was basically like 4 feet or so deep of compost when it started. So I didn't really think I needed to lay anything down underneath that in order to kill off the grass. So I've edged the bed, like I said, and now I have some beautiful things that I'm excited to plant into this space. I got them all on sale, so that was kind of, you know, my jumping point for getting these things started. But so far we do have just a few Nepeta. These are just small growing ones. They're not going to get huge. This is probably about their mature size. I had them in a container and I planted them out here because I didn't know where else I wanted to put them. So I just started edging this bed, and then I also have a forsythia here that's not really thriving, I would say, but it's definitely surviving. And considering I haven't watered it much at all this entire season, I'd say it's actually doing pretty well. So as you can see, this is on the back side of this garden bed, and this garden is alongside our front lawn. And so from the house and from our front porch, this Weigela actually will block our view considerably from seeing this bed. But I still have to kind of carefully about where I actually want to plant things, because I don't want from our front porch for anything in this bed to block our view out to the hayfield. That's kind of one of my husband's things about my gardens and what I plant. He doesn't want things to get too tall that will block our view out to the hayfield, to the pastures, where we can see our cows and things like that. So I'm gonna, as I place in the plants, we're gonna be stepping back from different vistas, I guess, and making sure that where they're placed, where they're gonna grow up tall, that they look flattering from places that I will often see them, such as our front porch, from the driveway, from over this direction as we come in. That matters to me, what we'll see from that direction. Basically, things are not going to grow up to block this view. So it's going to be a little bit tricky because, as you're going to see, I did get a few things that are going to get kind of tall, such as a tree. So let's just go over and look at the plants, and then let's just go ahead and get started placing them and going from there. All right, so I hope you guys are able to see these plants well enough, but this is kind of a little bit of a collection that I've gathered, not too intentionally, not like looking specifically for certain things for this space, but these are going to be basically my foundation plants, I guess, for this bed, and then the kind of my jumping off point, I guess, because I do know of some other plants that I specifically want to be putting in here, especially plants that I'm going to be taking out of my other beds where they're getting really too overgrown. So let's just start here. So this one was on sale for $20, which I was pretty excited about. This is a fluffy Western Arborvitae. So the Western Arborvitaes are native to my area, so they should do better than the Thuja occidentalis, I think is how you pronounce it, which are the Eastern Arborvitaes. So this one, as you can see, 5 to 10 tall and 3 to 6 wide, so definitely not huge. It's an evergreen, and thing obviously about this that's beautiful is it has this gorgeous yellowy chartreuse color to it that is just vibrant, eye-catching. I have a few other trees like this in other spots in my garden, and so it's kind of become a fun theme as far as evergreens go for me to have one of these, in different spots in the yard. So that one I'm really excited about. I was debating it when I was at Bauman's of whether to get it or not, and I'm really glad that I did. So this was another one that I got at Bauman's that was part of their tree sale, $20, pretty sweet deal for this little guy, a Golden Globe Arborvitae. And this one is one that's native to Eastern United States, not over here. But it'll just stay kind of small. You can see similar growth possibilities of the one we just looked at, interestingly enough, 6 feet high and 4 feet wide. But I think the idea is that this kind of just stays this little bit more ball shape than the one that's behind it. So the thing about these though is that they are possibly going to be pretty enticing to deer. I haven't had much deer pressure at all this year, so hopefully that's a good sign. We'll see. But then I have 3 more lavender. I did get these same place as the ones that we planted in just the other day. They were like $5 at a store nearby, just in town. It wasn't even a garden center, but I saw them and I thought, well, these will be sweet to try. So super blue, and you can see the stats on these, 10 to 12 tall and wide. So not a huge one, but again, these are evergreen, which is fun. I'll just kind of keep shearing them down to, a couple inches. So I'll just keep shearing these down to be pretty small so that they just kind of keep their nice globe shape, and hopefully then that'll give them a longer lifetime in my garden. Here we have a Miss Violet Buddleia. This one was another one I got a great deal on because the gal was like, oh, this is our very last one. How about I give it to you for $12? And I was like, yes, please, because I love Buddleia. I love the Miss series, as I've talked about before. I have several of the Miss Violet in my garden. Interestingly though, this one has a funny habit. I don't know exactly what's going on with it, but it will eventually grow up nice and tall, as it should, as is what's correct for the habit of this plant. But for right now, it's a little bit sprawling looking. So back here, these are a new to me viburnum, blue muffin, and I've heard these talked about on Proven Winners podcast. It's the Gardening Simplified show, and they had talked so highly of it mostly because of the berries. They can see that they are blue and just super unique. They have white flowers in the spring, and then the blue fruit that birds will love to eat off of it later on in the season. So this one is kind of big, 5 to 7 tall and wide. So I'm going to have to take that into consideration, especially where I plant this, being as that it does have the potential to get quite a bit larger. I have 2 of those, and I do have 3 arbs, or 3 boxwood rather, here. I got these ones when I told you guys about with my replacement of another boxwood that had died. I got these ones with that. These are a different variety than I've ever grown. They're Julia Jane boxwood, and these ones I got for $6.25, which was a really, really great deal. They were 75% off because the Tractor Supply was just trying to get rid of all of their shrubs and plants and everything. So I was happy with that and got a couple of these. So these ones 4 to 5 tall and wide, but I will be pruning on them, so they would take literally forever to get that big. But I have 3 of them. These also are in a little bit of a columnar shape just because of, I think, how they were pruned. So I don't know. We'll see how that develops over time. If they kind of want to keep that habit, that would be okay. But I would intend for them to be more rounded. So those are the shrubs and the perennials. And then I also got a crabapple. I did not intend on getting a tree for this space, but I don't know, I was at Bauman Farms and I saw this one and decided to go for it. So this one is Courageous Crabapple. I really was drawn to the habit of it being kind of upright and kind of more tight, I guess. And as you can see, natural upright form and maroon new growth matures to green bronze in the summer. And then it has, of course, the early, looks like it says lilac pink blooms, and they're highly fragrant, which is kind of different. I don't recall any of my other crab apples being fragrant. So this one starting out beautiful. I really hope, high hopes for how I can continue to treat this one, because it'll get, what did the specs say? About to see. So 20-25 high, 15 to 20 wide. So yeah, that's kind of a, upright oval-ish shape, similar to, I think, what it currently has. You can see that distinct from the trees behind it. So I think this will be neat, and also, the contrast of the colors being a little bit more bronzy, maroonish, they'll stand out from the trees that are behind it in the area. So this one will definitely be the one that takes the most thought as far as where I'm going to place it. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up the camera, and I'm going to start placing in these plants where I think that they're going to go. And then we'll step back and we'll take views from different spots just to see what we can see. Obviously, it'll be, won't exactly be what we'll be seeing in the future, because everything's obviously going to get larger, but it'll still, give me a good idea of if it's the accurate and ideal place to start these plants out in. I also have another green mountain boxwood that I think I'm going to be planting in right here, and possibly a rose of Sharon. I'm not sure. We're going to start with this and then go from there. Okay, I have everything placed where I think is a pretty good start. We're going to step back though and look at it from different points and see what we can see. I'll flip you around and show you from where I'm standing right now what I'm seeing, but then we're going to go up on the lawn, we're going to go up on the front porch. We'll go look maybe even from the window of my bathroom to see what we see out here, see what we need to move and alter a little bit. Okay, so I'm standing right in line with the Weigela right here behind me, and the tree, the crabapple I put up here kind of towards the front, because I think it's going to be right in line with the crabapple, or right in line with the Weigela, and right in line with that fir tree that's right behind it, so that it won't be blocking the view out to the hayfield. Next to it, I put down the little golden globe Arborvitae right in front of that. And then, as you can see, obviously I have the little trio of Nepeta here. And then I put the Buddleia right here in front, kind of in front of the Forsythia. I think I'm going to want to move it over a little bit to the right though. The Forsythia will obviously, it'll be a spring show, and then after that it's going to be primarily just a green shrub. And the Buddleia will be cut back in spring to basically 18 inches or so and look kind of like nothing, and then it'll grow up and do its thing and kind of cover up the Forsythia behind it. And then I put the fluffy arb right in the middle, and hoping that if it's in the middle, maybe the deer won't want to come to it, though I do know that they may want to eat on the viburnums, but time will tell. And then I put around the front, I put the 3 Julia Jane boxwood, just to be kind of like I've talked about before with boxwood, they're just kind of a pause for the eye. They'll just be a consistent point in this garden. Then I just put a little cluster of the lavender. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do this. It's very similar to what I have going on up there with the Nepeta. I don't know if I want them all together like this, or if I want to spread them out a little bit. So I'll have to decide on that. But you can see here's another one of the boxwood, another one of the boxwood. Then on the other side is the Green Mountain boxwood. So I only put one of them here. I'm going to put 2 of them on either side of this path over here to mimic what's at the openings of 2 other paths in this garden, as well as what's flanking the garden that's on the other side. But since this garden is not going to actually have a path going into it, I just decided to put one right there, so that as you come to the garden from this direction, it's basically flanking the opening. So I'll move that one down, I guess, a little bit towards the grass, so it mirrors this one on the other side a little bit better. coming this way again. Then there's the other viburnum. I have those just kind of on either side of the fluffy arb. So let's go up onto the front porch. Oh yeah, that Weigela really just covers up the entire garden. So even as you can kind of see the crabapple peeking up over the Weigela, even as it grows up, we'll still have a little bit of a view of the pasture. And of course, out this way, you can pretty much always see it. Nothing here is going to grow up too high to block it. So I think from this point, that looks good. Okay, so really quick before we go down and look at one more spot, I wanted to just point out this is a spot I stand a lot on our front porch. And if I zoom in, so just so you can see a little better, you can see that boxwood right out there in the new garden bed. I think I'll move the butterfly bush over just a little bit from where it's at so that it'll be just to the right. And then it'll kind of come up and it'll actually block that boxwood and it'll come up over the yarrow. And I'll be able to see the purple coming up right there, which will be super pretty because if I scan this way, there's a Miss Violet butterfly bush right there in front of me. There's also one down in the lower garden, two actually in the lower garden that you can see right down there. So it'll just really kind of create some continuity in your view from up here on the front porch. And that really matters to me. It matters to me what I see when I'm in the garden, but it also really matters to me what I see from the front porch and spots where I often stand and look out and kind of take the garden in from. So now we'll come back down here, and there's just one more spot really that I want to look at the garden from. Okay, I wanted to look at it from this spot right here on the base of this front slope garden and just kind of along this viewpoint. So obviously what I see is I really need to work on the edging alongside this wood chip pathway that leads to that garden because that's a little bit unattractive. But as we look down to the garden, I might move the golden globe arborvitae a little bit one way or the other just so from this spot it's not perfectly in line with the trunk of the tree. Yeah, I think I have room either direction to do that. Maybe move it over a little bit to the right, and then I think that looks good. I think I'm happy. I'll move the buddleia over a little bit and the golden globe over a little bit, and yeah, I'm ready to get these guys in the ground. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking as I'm placing these. I definitely know that I want to do a big swath right here of Nepeta so that it matches these ones over here. I have some here, but I think I really want to get the walkers low because it makes a much bigger impact. So I think this whole section will be that. And then I think right in here, it would be really pretty to put in maybe some of the smaller butterfly bush, like the pink chip probably, I think would be really pretty. I did bring forward the red pillar rose of Sharon. It's really much more of a pink. It's not red. And honestly, I was waiting to see it bloom before I decided if I was going to incorporate it into one of my gardens or what I thought about that. It's much more pink, so I think it's perfect. So yeah, so Nepeta, and then I think either like maybe 3 of the small butterfly bush or just one, and then maybe some sort of chartreuse, maybe even a chartreuse spirea or the sunshine ligustrum like we just got. Put that right in here. And then I'm not entirely sure for up on that space or on the front right here. But yeah, I do know for sure I want to do Nepeta right here. So I'm leaving this whole area open intentionally for that. Some other options that I was thinking of would be some more euphorbia because that grows really well here in the full sun and deer don't like it. Yarrow, I think, is another perennial that I'll probably put down here. But yeah, for now, I think this is good. I think I'm happy with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and get everything in the ground, and then I'm going to run some drip tubing around and get this all finished up for now. All right, so I have everything planted in and watered in, and I also just kind of raked around the mulch and just kind of tried to flatten the areas out. You know, obviously as you plant, things get a little bit more mounded and a little bit compressed down in places. So just kind of tried to redistribute the mulch around just to make the bed look nice and tidy. And also now I'm slow watering the Nepeta. Got everything else watered pretty easy. But the Nepeta is a good example of what happens to this, basically the mulch cap on top of this garden, and any garden really. Once it dries out, the mulch cap is super, super hard and it's really hard for water to penetrate. So I'm having to just have a slow drip to go through that. Otherwise, if I watered it, the water would just go, you know, and like spread out and move away from the plant and then eventually soak in. But I want it to get right to the root of the plant. So slow drip there. Everything else was easy to water in just because I had already just roughed up the mulch surface. So let me just show you where everything ended up. We'll just kind of look at everything now that it's planted. And then I'm going to lay out my drip tube and get drip emitters and drip line going to every single plant in this garden because I want them to get a really good start in this garden bed. And that means obviously being able to give them good, slow drinks of water. All right, so here's the Nepeta just getting a nice drink of water from the hose. As you can see it, even though it is dripping pretty slowly out of there, you can see it moving away from the plant. And that is just unfortunately what happens. Eventually, obviously, it might get to the roots of other plants, but anyway, better to have it nice and slow and deep on the plant. Anyhow, here is the Miss Violet right here in the middle. Again, this one has an interesting habit right now, but it will get nice and tall and a little bit wider than this, but for the most part, it'll just be a more of a vertical shrub. So right behind it, you can see there's the slow growing forsythia that will be probably very happy now at this point to have some water run to it so that it can get a little bit more of a drink than I've been giving it currently. Here's the fluffy arb, looking so sweet. You just kind of want to hug it. It's so soft and pretty and inviting. It is quite staked. It came with this stake in it, and I'm not really sure what to expect when I remove the stake. I don't know if it's going to want to flop. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it on there for the time being until I feel like it gets rooted in and just becomes a little bit more established. Then I'll take that off and see what it does and see if it needs a different staking situation. So kind of a little bit in front of that is where the tree ended up. Again, this is the Courageous Crabapple, and I just think it's such a cool habit. It's just nice and compact. And if this one does well here, I may choose to replace some of my other crab apples with this variety because I love the tidiness of it. Fingers crossed that guy will be happy here and will thrive and do really well. So then the green globe arborvitae is right here. Is that what it's called? I keep calling it the wrong thing. Golden globe arborvitae is right here. I was going to move it to the right a little bit of the trunk so that from this viewpoint it wasn't in line, but I actually liked it better a little bit to the left. So that is where that one ended up. And again, that one will get probably 4 feet wide, 6 feet-ish tall. So it'll be a nice complement next to the crabapple. And then right here in the front is one of the Green Mountain boxwood. And I did plant it, and then I realized, oh, I should have probably planted it a little bit closer to the grass so that it would match this one that's on the other side of the grass a little bit better. And then beyond that, I planted the Julia Janes a little bit further back because I didn't want this to look as if they were kind of going as a hedge, because I do intend over time to train this boxwood, this Green Mountain, into a cone. And I'm hoping that these guys will branch out a little bit more and become more like boxwood balls. That's what my hope is. So I didn't want it to look like I was trying to have 4 in a row here. I want this one to be a little bit different than the other two. Like I'll probably plant in front of those other ones, but this one will be right at the edge of the garden bed. So and then right here is the blue Muffin Viburnum, 2 of those. And then I did go ahead and put in the red pillar Rose of Sharon, and you can see here this one bloom that's open. I guess it has a little bit of red towards the center, but for the most part, I think that's quite pink. So I like it. I don't do much red other than some tones of red in shrubbery and in the foliage. So I wasn't going to plant this if it was a really vibrant red, but it is definitely more on the pink side. So I think that'll be really pretty. That one is just a tall and slender one, so it'll just kind of make an exclamation point right there. Hopefully, I do know that those want a lot of water, and I do know that I struggle with them in my gardens. I have several that I'm trying to grow, and they're kind of putzing along, but they're not quite hitting their stride yet. So hopefully they will, but we'll see. Okay, so here's another Julia Jane boxwood, and then I decided just to put the three lavenders right here, just kind of, you know, in just a little bit of a line, and I moved them closer to this Julia Jane boxwood rather than this one, so that I could plant in something else right here that could maybe, like, you know, swoop back a little bit behind or make a little triangle-ish situation right there. So we'll see. I decided to do that instead of space these perfectly in the middle of the two. So, and then right behind that is the other blue muffin. And now we're back over here to the forsythia. All right, so over here I have all of my drip supplies, and I'm hoping that I have enough drip tube to at least just get to the plants that are in here. I know it's definitely not enough, or I don't think it's enough to supply, you know, potentially what the entire bed would be, but I can always add on more poly tubing to this one. So this will be my supply line. It's just a 3/4 inch black poly solid supply line, and then I will be using one of these at the end, which is what will attach to my quick connect for my hose. I'll show you guys that once it arrives. I have some at the post office right now I need to pick up, but basically this will hook into the end of the tube. This is what will connect to the hose, and then I just have my supplies right here. Some couplers that I don't think I will really need today, but I do have my drip emitters, which I will be using. These ones are the 1 gallon, and I only have 1 2-gallon, but that's okay. I think what I'm going to be doing more so of is using the 1/4 inch drip tube that has the emitters in it, and I will be attaching that and kind of wrapping it around the base of several of these shrubs, primarily the ones that are on the flatter portion, like the tree and the arbs, and then the Rose of Sharon and the viburnums. I think for those ones I will wrap the supply line that has the emitters in it around those. So I'll be using this for that, and then the emitters I'll run to just the individual shrubs that are on the lower side. And that's mostly because if they're coming out of the 3/4 inch line with the emitters in it, that will supply a more even coverage around the base of the plant on the flat part of the garden. But when it comes to the sides where it's sloping down a little bit, if I was to do that, the water that would be coming out of the tube on the lower end would just rush away from the plant, and I don't really want that to happen. So for those ones, I will put emitters on the top side, up on the top side of the garden, you know, that so gravity will just pull the water down towards the plants that are on the edge of the slope. All right, so I hope that all made sense. I'm going to get the tubing laid out, and then I'll show you a little bit closer up as I'm putting in the emitters and, you know, all that stuff. So first things first, though, is getting the supply line laid out all throughout the bed. right, we got everything in, and I'm just amazed that I had like the exact amount of supply line that I needed to get through the plants that are currently in the bed. That is rare and doesn't usually happen, so that was cool. Not attractive right now, obviously, because you can see the tubing. I will come back and bury that in once I run the drip and just make sure that all the connections are good and all that stuff. And then I also need to order more of the little stake deals that keep it down. I like to put those every, I don't know, every foot or so along the supply line just to keep it in, in place, especially once I cover it up with the mulch, because I don't really want it to be making its way back up. But for now, this is great. Everything has water going to it. As you could see, some of them, as I was telling you, I did run the 1/4 inch supply line into the brown tubing that has the inline emitters. Did that for quite a few of these. The boxwoods and the viburnum all got that. The rose of Sharon, the arbs all got that, as well as the tree. The boxwood got 2 1 gallon per hour emitters just right in the tube, just because it happened to be going right by them. So that was easy enough. And then just 1 gallon to the lavenders and 1 gallon also in the supply line. You can see that right there for the Nepeta. And then this guy got a single 2 gallon emitter right to its base. So everything has water run to it. Just had to come over here into the shade a little bit. It's not even very hot outside, but for some reason, just standing in the blaring sun, whether it's 70 degrees or 90 degrees, it just about does me in. Anyways, just had to come over to the shade and say that I'm so glad that everything is in this bed. I'm loving the start to this bed. It's so fun now to be able to think through garden beds. And I know, like I said, most of these plants I got on sale. They just happen to be ones that I was really interested in. But now I'm going to be a little bit more intentional on what I pick to put into this bed. So yeah, that's really fun. All that to be said, you guys, thank you for hanging out with me while I put in this bed. I'm excited to see how this one goes. I have some ideas, like I said already, about what other plants that I want to put in here, other plants that I want to move from other garden beds that are just too full now at this point into this garden. So it'll be an evolving process, but I think we're off to a really good start. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to chat with you about anything gardening related, anything you saw in this video or otherwise. So yeah, hope you guys are having a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.